Okay. Hi, Jud. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
Nice to see you and all of your books back there. I see some books actually that I've read. I see Plato
hmm
and I see, let's see, The Divine Comedy. I think I read that. Who wrote that?
Dante.
Yeah, okay. I have read that. Yeah, great. Okay. And your book is not up there, though.
It's not up there. I have it by my side, but I do keep one copy of each of my books here, just so if a friend wants one or something, I can get it. The rest of them are in storage, so it's also just a fun little thing for me to have them on the shelf and see them all. But
Have you taken account of how many books you have up there?
I uh, I think it was like 5 years ago. I put them all on Goodreads, and I've been adding them all, and I think it's like 764
Oh,
right now.
right.
Um, Something like that. Yeah.
So, as we were talking about before we got on, you were a student of film production at Emerson in Boston. Yeah.
hmm
When were you there? What years were you there?
2009 to 2013.
Oh, okay. So it's been a little while.
Yeah.
Well, you don't look that old, actually.
I know. I get that a lot. Yeah. I'm 31, but I still get carded sometimes at bars.
Yeah, I mean, you could be 19, like no problem. Yeah. Well, good for you. Hopefully that
Yeah. I'm,
lasts until you're in your 70s. See if you still get
yeah.
carded then.
I'm thinking maybe it's just because I sit inside reading and writing all day. I'm not out in the sun, so my skin hasn't been weathered yet.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
my
know
theory.
if you really want to look like that. You remember the old Marlboro Man posters with the cowboy with the leather face? I don't know if that's such a handsome look or not. I think having more soft skin is probably a better look. But
Yeah. I'm hanging on to it as long as I can.
well, good for you. So we were talking about film production, and we were talking about kind of the oversaturated market, specifically with podcasting. But film production has also gotten very oversaturated because of the technology that made it sort of available to everybody. Once digital imaging came around, basically anybody could make a film. It was very cheap. The problem is the good news is the same as the bad news. Now everybody can do it. Now everybody can do it. When you were there, were you studying specifically film production? I mean, like, were you going to make a film? Did you make a film?
That was that was the hope. So we shot some short films, and fortunately, Emerson, I don't know if they still do, but at the time they had actual film that you could use. So we shot just kind of test videos on 8 millimeter film, and we actually edited them on Steenbecks, threading the film through and
Oh,
cutting with a
nice.
razor and tape. And then I did a full short. My friend and I did on 16 millimeter film, which that one we digitized to edit, but we did, you load up, you have to put yourself in this bag essentially to load the film canister without exposing it to light. And what's really scary is you then have to take it out when you're done with the reel to put it back in the canister. But if it touches any light at that point, it just gets exposed and you lost everything that you shot. Um, so yeah, there was obviously digital at the time, but we did do a lot of actual film production, which was a great experience.
Oh, I think that would be a wonderful experience because you could see how historically it was done and how difficult it is. I mean, digital manipulation is a breeze.
Yeah, it's wild. You hear stories about editors removing or adding a frame, like famously Jaws, they took out like one frame of the shark and made the effect work. And starting with digital editing, you think, oh, you just trim the frame and that's it. But just thinking about going in and cutting with actual like razors, and it's pretty astonishing when you see what they were able to do with some of those older films.
So, did you actually pursue any marketing of a film you made, or did you kind of give up on the whole process?
The short film that my friend and I made, we submitted it to a bunch of festivals. Um, I think we got into one maybe, and I can't even remember. It wasn't Sundance or anything. It was kind of a smaller festival. But beyond that, it just sort of got caught up in the gears so quickly, and very quickly, for me at least, got disillusioned, I would say, of just trying to get stuff made and not being able to, and meanwhile having all this kind of backlog of ideas that was generating, and just the frustration of like, I know what I want it to be. I think it's a good idea, but it would cost, even a micro budget film could be $100,000 nowadays. And it's obviously harder and harder to raise that money if you don't have a body of work, but it's hard to get the body of work without having some kind of resources.
Well, that's true. And, how do you start? Because I know some filmmakers, they always hit up the family first, and then their friends, and then they put out a GoFundMe. And, you can get some money that way, but unless you've got a very rich family who can write a check for 10 million and just, here, go have fun. Yeah, and it quickly adds up, doesn't it? Because I did a sort of a budget for one of the screenplays that I wrote a few years ago. And a couple of people said anywhere from 25 to $50 million is what it was going to cost to make this film.
Whoa.
And I said, even with CGI? Because I thought, oh, we could just do everything CGI. All we need are the costumes, because it was a period piece. So we'd have to get the costumes from the 1920s. But I said, can't we just do the backgrounds and stuff in CGI? CGI, as great as it is, actually increases the budget, which I thought was strange, because I thought that would make it a lot cheaper than actually having to build sets. But you got to pay all those computer geeks.
Yeah.
It's really a weird concept. But the guy that I was talking to said, take a look at the next, Marvel Comics big CGI kind of film and watch the credits at the end. There's hundreds of people in those credits. All of them got to get paid, and all of them were like CGI people in one way or another.
Yeah, it's pretty. I watched Wake and Fright recently, which is an Australian film from the 70s, and I think the entire credits was maybe 100 people for that, and that's it. And I'm so used to seeing 8-minute long credit reels. It's pretty amazing.
Well, why does it take so many people to do CGI?
That's a good question. Because of the budget level I was working at, which was zero essentially, I really know very little about CGI. And I know there's a lot of like compositing, and they have to film separate plates for certain things and references. So one person's job might just be to film an actual dust plume to superimpose on. I could be wrong about that, but I don't really, it's kind of mystical to me. I know there's a lot of computers and processors, and that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Well, you kind of have to wonder if it would have been just cheaper to build the old-fashioned sets, with 2x4s and paper mache and and do it like they used to do.
I think.
Yeah, and do it the way they used to do it. I mean, you'd have to have a handful of carpenters to come in and do that. But I don't know. I'm way out of my element talking about that, but I was curious. Okay, so I think we had touched on this a little bit earlier, where you kind of got frustrated making the productions because of all of the money issues and things. You were writing some screenplays, and then you basically switched from screenplay writing to novel writing, correct?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Did you find that kind of liberating, where now you can use as many words as you want?
I did. It was dangerous at first. The very first draft of a screenplay that I turned into a novel was, I forget how long it was. It was way too long. And then I quickly rereading it, I was like, most of this is boring. It's not that interesting. And so that was a good lesson in that you can't completely forsake economy in a novel, but you do have the opportunity to just luxuriate in language a little bit more and get inside characters' heads and go on not maybe not tangents isn't the right word, but you can take narrative detours in a way that you don't really have time to do in a film, which has to just be moving straight from the beginning to the end, ideally in 2 hours. Nowadays they're all 3 hours, but I like a shorter one. But yeah, it was a fun challenge.
Well, I like a longer film if you need to have a longer film. Did you see The Irishman?
Yeah,
Okay, now that was what, three and a half?
I think yeah, it was just shy of 4, I believe.
Right. But when I watched that film, I mean, my clock in my head was going, wow, this is long. But at the same time, when I went back and thought, oh, let me do a fan edit, uh, there wasn't really anything I could cut out. You know, it all needed to be there. I thought.
Yeah,
What did you think?
I'm in the same boat. I think it really came alive the last hour. For people who haven't seen it, I don't want to give away, but the last hour is almost real time, just one sequence, and the movie gets very quiet, especially for a Scorsese film, which is usually whipping around everywhere, and it really takes its time. And I think you're right. You did really need all the rest of the context to give you the dramatic weight of that last hour or so.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Where on the other hand, there was a film that came out in the 70s called The Deer Hunter. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, with the endless wedding at the beginning.
The Endless Wedding. Now, that was one that
Yeah,
I did a fan edit and I cut 30 minutes of that wedding out. And
yeah.
it didn't make any difference to the film at all. You did the wedding for 6 minutes instead of 36 minutes, right? And
I
then,
would have watched that one.
yeah, and then you go to the Vietnam, then switch to Vietnam, right? And that's, I don't know what the hell he was thinking with that wedding. It's
Did you?
unbelievable.
I never saw Heaven's Gate. Did you ever see that?
No, no, I
I think
didn't
that
see
one's
that.
even longer.
Oh, God. Well, all right. We just got a couple minutes left here. I want to get your book in here. Hold it up again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Duraga.
Duraga. Okay. And turn it to the side so people can
So
see
you can
how
see
thick
the
it
width.
is. Yeah. How many words is it?
I think it's somewhere in the ballpark of 240, 240,000. I
40,000.
think.
Okay.
Maybe a little less. But
And so 80 to 90,000 is sort of an average novel.
yeah, yeah, somewhere in there. Well, yeah, 100 it's probably about 230. But yeah, it's 750 pages.
Well, so why did you do it as one giant book instead of like a series?
It's a story that's very much about a single so it takes place in a galaxy that's about just a couple decades out of a general war, and it's in this weird fragile peacetime, and the story is about a bunch of seemingly insignificant characters making small decisions that all compound to start to re-escalate things back towards that war that they just got out of. And so it's really about the beginning, the end, and just moving you increasingly quickly from the beginning to the end. And that the intention is that it starts as a slow burn and just rips through. And there really aren't breaks where you could cut it in half. I did think about that, um, but I don't know. I just liked the idea of it being one big story that you sit down and hopefully are just completely pulled along by. I'm hoping it's an Irishman scenario where it doesn't feel like it's as long as it is. It's just, you're just excited to read it for the next
Well,
one.
do you think just the size of the book, the physical size of the book is going to intimidate people not to buy it?
I think it's the kind of thing that it definitely will turn some people off, but the inverse is that for like I'm one of those people who I really like a long book. I get really excited when I see a self-contained story that's 900 pages or something because I just feel like if it's good and you can get fully immersed in it, that's a whole, you know, crazy journey you can go on for a month or however long it takes you to read it. But there are definitely people I've seen who pick it up when I'm selling it, look at it and go, that's a really long book, and put it down.
Do you have to charge more for a big book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've up until now, I've had two price tiers. I've had $20 and $25, and they're all set based on the unit price. I price them out based on that. But this one was so expensive to just produce a single unit that I have to charge 30 for it, unfortunately.
Okay, so
But people are buying it, so it's so far that hasn't been an obstacle to sales.
well, so you're selling it by the page, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. I
Yeah,
think the unit cost is entirely, yeah, the width of the
the
book
width
and
of the
then the
book.
physical size of it as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, content is irrelevant. Well, let's just go for the size of the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Jud, we got to wind this down. Thanks so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun talking to you. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Yeah, sure. www.judwiding, JUDWIDING.com. And all my social media is just at Jud Widing as well.
Okay. And the book is out now and available for purchase?
Yep, available physical copies and ebooks as well.
Great. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. It was nice talking to you. Best of luck with